friends, welcome back to my channel, and today we're going to be doing one of my favorite genres of move. It's below the bar move. So that is any kind of move that happens in this sort of a space, the space that is below the hoop. I love this type of move for several reasons. First off, because I think it's underused. I think we spend a lot of time inside the hoop, we spend a lot of time on top of the hoop, but we don't spend as much time below the hoop. So I think that it's kind of a nice change up of move to use. I also love this type of move because when you're performing, doing a below the bar move is something that your audience can kind of very quickly understand, because when you're below the bar, obviously you're hanging on with your hands or your leg or your feet sometimes. And as humans, we can see that and be like, oh, she's hanging on by one hand, he's hanging on by his feet. And just immediately understand that that's a kind of a risky, difficult thing, even if it just looks difficult and isn't actually that difficult. So it really communicates risk and excitement to an audience very fast when you use this little area. I'm pointing at the camera, that little area right there. So that's what we're doing today. We're going to do a few different options of move. There's going to be something for kind of every level, from something pretty simple to something a little bit more challenging. That's all I've got to say on this matter, so I'm going to hop on the hoop. Okay, we're going to do kind of a mix of levels. There's going to be a couple of simpler tricks and a couple of harder, more advanced tricks. We're going to start with waves. This is one of my favorite below the bar moves because it's pretty simple, but it is really gorgeous once you refine it. The trick is to get this beautiful leg motion just right, and there's a few little details that are really important. So what we're going to do first is get onto the mat and practice it on the floor before we try it in the air. Start by laying down on your back, lifting up your hips, and placing your hands on your lower back so that they are lifting up the weight of your hips. Next, you're going to open your legs up. They don't have to be in a full straddle split, they just have to be in a wide V, that's fine. And you're going to start the waves motion by bending one leg at a time. The crucial thing here is that as you bend each knee, you tilt your hips to follow that knee. You can see that as my leg comes down, my hips are also tilting down. Another crucial thing is to not bend your knees too much. You never want to bend your knees more than 90 degrees, and you might even bend them less than that. The more subtly you bend your knees, the better it's going to look. Practice on the ground like this a few times until the motion starts to feel natural. You might also try watching yourself in a mirror or doing a video to see exactly what you're doing. But when you're ready, it's time to go up on the hoop. We're going to start by doing a standard straddle mount. Remember to lift up your hips as high and close to your wrist as possible. And then we're going to start the motion, really moving those hips side to side, dropping one side of the hips down as the leg goes down, and then changing to the other side. Keep it smooth, keep it graceful, and most importantly, keep it controlled. Here it is a little bit faster so you can see the movement. You can also think about, and this is kind of a weird woo-woo tip, but I think it really works. If you think about energy going out the tips of your toes, so the energy is shooting down your leg and going out the tips of your toes, it's going to make your legs look longer. I don't know why it works, but if you think about it, it will work. Okay, let's move on to our other sort of simple moves for today. It's the under the bar split and broken arrow. You don't have to have a full split. It's totally fine to do this as a stag or as a V style split. So if you don't have a full split, don't stress, it's still going to work for you. We're going to start this one already on the hoop in hawks. I'm going to open up my knees slightly so there's space to place my hand between them. I'm going to place my other hand on the outside of my knees. Whichever leg is between your two hands is the leg that's going to be the front leg of your splits. You also want to have your hands wide enough that your hips can fit between them. And you want to have your hands facing back away from you so you're looking at the back of your hands. They should be grabbing from the front of the hoop. Once my hands are on, I'm going to take both legs off the hoop, down in front of me in a V. I should be able to see my legs pointing towards the ground. Then I'm going to rotate the leg that is free, that's the leg that's outside of my arms, around behind me, coming directly behind me, and I can come into a split. Again, if you don't have a full split, that is not going to affect this move. And you can also bend both knees coming into a stag. The final step is I'm going to turn my hips and let them kind of lean against the arm of my front leg. I've got my left leg in the front, so that's going to be my left arm, but if you had your right leg, that would obviously be your right arm. I'm letting my hips turn to the side, and I'm thinking about putting that arm basically in my crotch, for lack of a better word. If you are feeling like your hips are on a diagonal, then that is a good feeling. Go with that. Once I have my hips in the good position, I can play with what I'm doing with my legs. It should feel like you're bending your legs to point down towards your head. Try to arch your back as much as possible and lift your head towards your feet, especially if you're bending your legs like this. I also like to do one leg straight, one leg bent. You could do either leg straight, they both look pretty. And finally, I can lift my hips back up, bring that front leg back to the front, and then hook it on the bottom of the hoop, coming out of the position. This is a really nice little combo if you go split, broken arrow, split, rehook into a knee hang here. I think it's cute. You could also try doing these little switches where I'm going to go into my broken arrow, so my hips are facing the side like we did before, and I'm going to open up my legs into a V in front of me like a straddle, and then come back to the broken arrow and then open up. This is a great exercise because it helps your hip flexibility in an active way. You're not just holding a stretch, but you are stretching your hips. And also it's really pretty. It's a fun move in itself. And finally, here's that little split, broken arrow, split combo in real time so you can see how the movement works. Again, this whole thing really is kind of a nice hip exercise if you're trying to build flexibility and range of motion in your hips. All right, let's move into some more advanced work now with a meat hook and a fun variation on the meat hook that I've been really enjoying lately. First, let's look at a standard meat hook. If you want a more in-depth breakdown, if you're struggling with meat hooks, I've got a full tutorial on this channel, and I also put one on my Instagram recently, so you can check those out. But basically, we're going to start from a straddle and then lift one leg up, bringing it behind the hoop in a big circle and rotating it over to meet the other leg. You want to keep your hips nice and high and close to your wrist. As soon as your hips drop, you're kind of doomed. And you also want to keep the leg that's rotating behind the hoop close to the hoop. As soon as it gets far away, it's going to get heavier and much more hard to lift. So that's your basic meat hook. Now let's look at the fun little variation that I've been playing with this week. You're going to start in exactly the same way. So I'm lifting up my hips high, I'm using my abs, I'm bringing my chest through my arms. Remember, that's always important in a straddle. And then I'm rotating that leg around, bringing it up behind the hoop. However, as that working leg arrives this time, I'm going to keep my legs open in a wide V. So you can see my working leg on the top is almost angled diagonally up, and my bottom leg is angled down. Come out of it, it's going to feel a little different because you do have to throw that bottom leg slightly forward to get your weight in the right place before you open the working leg back up, coming back into your straddle. Here it is in real time. Watch again how I throw that bottom leg forward when I'm coming out of the meat hook variation. That's really the only big difference apart from having your legs apart, but it's a really important one. You do need to have that weight forward to come out smoothly. And of course, you can also do other meat hook variations that are fun, like bending one leg, taking one arm off. There's a lot of options with meat hook. It's a really fun move once you get it. And our final move today is going to be this single arm hang. I love this one because it's really unusual looking. It's great for your grip strength because you're hanging from one arm, and there's a really fun way to incorporate a straddle into it. We're going to start from a normal straddle mount. You want to make sure though that you have your hands really in the center of the hoop. That's going to be important when you switch to your one arm hang. From my straddle mount, I'm going to wrap one leg around the front of my arms. I'm trying to get my knee down close to my elbow, and then I can drop my hips and I can let go with one arm. The arm that is holding onto the hoop is the one that your leg is hooked around. To come out of it, I'm going to replace my free arm on the hoop, use my leg that is hooked to help lift up my hips, and come back into my straddle. If I want to add the straddle variation into this, it's pretty simple. What I'm going to do is transition into the move the same way that I did before. So hooking my leg, dropping my hips down, letting go with my free arm. But then I'm going to take my free arm and grab my bottom heel, opening that leg up, as I slide my top leg down my arm. As I slide down, I'm hooking my heel onto my arm and holding myself in the straddle position. Here's that one again in real time. This is so useful because it adds variety to choreography. It's kind of quirky and unusual looking, and it really is going to help build up your grip strength. Don't forget to also use your abs to help yourself while you're doing this trick. There you go. That is all for today, but I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you found a version of a below the bar move that you really enjoyed. These are some of my favorites, especially the hanging from one hand straddle one is just a go-to for me. I really love that one. Anyway, if you enjoyed this video, I hope that you will take a moment to subscribe to this channel because there are more in-depth tutorials for a lot of these moves and for a lot, so many other moves. So if you want to have some more tutorials, subscribe and you won't miss out on any. And also, if you guys could like this video, that would be pretty cool too. And with that, I think that's it. I've covered all my bases. I've taught you guys some moves. I've said subscribe. I've got to log off. Bye.